right, I'll call the regular meeting of the School District of Belleville Board of Education to order at 6:31 p.m. Can we get a roll call, please, Marion?
Meg Anthony,
Present.
Alan Charles,
Here.
Steve Elliott, Brian Kubley,
Here.
Marion Binney, here, Katie Worley,
Here.
Beth Yours,
Here.
6 present.
I will entertain a motion for tonight's agenda approval.
I will make that motion.
And I'll second it. Motion made by Marion, seconded by Katie. Any further questions, comments, or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of agenda approval say yes.
Yes.
All opposed say no. Steve, did you make an approval? Okay, thank you. You were not here 5 seconds ago. Apologies. Motion passes 7-0. All right, in public comments tonight, we do have a few public comments here. So let me read a little bit of info regarding visitor comments. It's been a little while since we've had those. So comments will be made. We have 2 commenters tonight, and I'll invite Jessica up to speak first. And while you're coming on up to the podium, I'll read a statement to just say that the Board of Education does value public feedback. The board has opted to have a public comment period at this school board meeting. Comments are limited to items within the legitimate jurisdiction of the board and only during the designated public comment period. Each commenter is limited to 4 minutes for the commenter's remarks. The maximum total amount of time for public comments is 30 minutes. Each commenter shall be identified by the commenter's name, place of residence, and group affiliation. Comments must be directed solely to the board and/or its designee and must not address other members of the audience during this part of the meeting. The board, during the public comment period, will not discuss an agenda issue raised by the public commenter, but may discuss such agenda items at the conclusion of the public comment period. All individuals who comment during the public comment period are reminded that the information provided this evening is intended to provide information to the board so that it can fulfill its role. In receiving public comment, the board encourages the commenter to engage in civil discourse that models character and ethical behavior. In that vein, all parties are reminded that all information offered to be truthful and honest. False statements or stigmatizing charges may subject the individual making such statements to legal repercussions, including but not limited to defamation claims. Other specific procedures for the public comment period not mentioned herein can be found in board policy. Thank you for bearing with me through that mouthload. So we have Jessica McCarthy from New Glarus, not representing any particular group. So I'll let you get started. Thank you.
I'm here to speak on behalf of a child, an elementary student who was expelled for words spoken in a moment of frustration, a child with no prior disciplinary record, a child who made a mistake, yes, but was never given a second chance or even the benefit of understanding. The words were serious and needed to be addressed, but that's what they were, words. There was no action and no history of violent behavior, yet the district responded with the most severe consequence available, immediate expulsion. What's especially troubling is the inconsistency. In this same district, a student brought a firearm onto school property, another told a peer, "You should kill yourself and I'll help you hold the gun to your head," and a group of students discussed bombs. And still, none of those incidents led to an expulsion hearing. In some cases, your own policies were bypassed in order not to expel. Let me be clear, I'm not asking for more students to be expelled. I'm asking, why is this student, this child, was held to a different standard? If others received a chance to learn and grow, why not this student? Because timing matters. This incident happened on the same day as the tragic events at Abundant Life Christian School. Fear was in the air and emotions were high. But I asked this board, was this truly about student safety, or was this a fear-based decision made in the shadow of another tragedy? We can all agree that protecting students is paramount, but true protection means more than reacting to fear. It means making decisions rooted in fact, not panic. It means standing in the gap for children, not turning our backs on them when they need us the most. While this family was trying to understand a complicated and overwhelming process, one that they had never imagined they would have to face, they were met with little support from the district. In fact, the principal was advised not to contact them. In this family's greatest moment of confusion and fear, the district chose distance over compassion. And yet, here's what may be the most revealing part of all. Shortly after the incident, the administration sent this statement to families in a district-wide email. Belleville police have thoroughly investigated the matter and determined there is no credible threat to our students, staff, or schools. So which is it? If there was no credible threat, why was this child expelled? Either the district agreed with law enforcement and chose to ignore that finding, or it publicly reassured parents with a statement it didn't fully believe. In addition, as part of the conditions for reinstating this child, the school board required quarterly home inspections by the district until 2027. Think about that. A child who made a mistake with words is now subject to the district visits in their own home for over 2 years. That's a heavy burden for any family. But here's the part that's hardest to understand. Not one of those follow-ups has happened, not a single visit. So I have to ask, was this condition ever about safety, or was it about sending a message? Because if it was meant to be taken seriously, how can you explain doing nothing to follow through? It looks less like safety and more like punishment without purpose. When we step back, it becomes painfully clear. This wasn't about the words spoken. It was about distancing the district from fear. A child became a symbol of that fear, and a child paid the price. On your website, Belleville proudly claims Belleville has not gone through the expulsion process with a student in the last 8 years. That is false. A student was expelled from your elementary school this academic year. So why pretend otherwise? If we expect our children to be honest, then the district must be honest too. I urge this board to do what's right, not just what's easy or politically correct. Reverse this expulsion decision. Re-examine your process. Give this child the same grace others have received. The weight of this decision does not rest on this child. It rests on the future students who will look to this board for fairness, and for every parent who hopes their child will be met with dignity when they stumble, and not rejection. It's about the message you send to every child who will follow in their footsteps. Show them that you choose understanding, that you choose second chances, and that you actually believe that children can grow past their worst moment.
All right, thank you, Jessica. Next on public comment is Orion McCarty.
Thank you for letting me speak. I'd like to address the recent creation of policy 5610.03, alternatives to expulsion and re-entry plans. On its face, this is a promising step. It's time this district acknowledges there have been gaps in how disciplinary decisions have been made. They can't help ask, why now? This new policy appears to be a direct response to the decision that deeply impacted a family, the expulsion of a child just 3 months before the policy was adopted. A child who had no prior discipline history. A new policy seems to admit what many of us already know: the district made the wrong call. If this child's experience helped the district realize the need for a better process, that should be acknowledged. What does it send when the very student who exposed the need for change is still living under the weight of expulsion? This new policy suggests future students may receive compassion, flexibility, or a chance to be supported instead of isolated. That's a good thing, but it also shines light on the injustice this child is still facing. Our future students may now have the opportunity to participate in supportive measures like mentorship or activities as alternates to expulsion. This elementary student, the catalyst for this policy, is banned from participating in extracurricular. Why isolate one child but create a supportive path for others? It sends a message that the district is willing to change but not willing to repair harm already done. And while this new policy is a step in the right direction, it's not without risks. One major concern is the policy references alternate options to expulsion, but places financial burden on those alternates on families. That creates inequality, requiring families to potentially pay for assessments, drug tests, counseling, and classes just to avoid expulsion. This places an unfair burden on those least able to afford it and creates a two-tiered system. Families with resources can access alternatives, while others may be funneled towards expulsion because they can't pay to avoid it. This is just a new form of punishment based on income. We already know the students from low-income families are disproportionately expelled from school, which can contribute to the school-to-prison pipeline. Students are more likely to encounter a criminal justice system. In addition, there is no neutral third-party oversight, no guarantee that the student's voice will be heard in any way that protects their dignity or long-term well-being. Most concerning of all, policy gives sole direction to the district administrator to decide whether to offer pre-expulsion conference at all, decide whether to accept the student into alternate process, and revoke the plan and proceed with expulsion if a family fails to comply, even if non-compliance is due to cost or confusion. This level of centralized power dramatically reduces the role of an elected school board, which is supposed to ensure fairness, transparency, and community representation. And this isn't hypothetical. In the very case that appears to have prompted this policy, the expulsion of an elementary student, the administration actively pursued the most severe outcome. The administration acknowledged the elementary student, and I quote, has been what we would characterize as a very good student, had no behavior infractions prior to December 16th. However, what occurred on December 16th warrants expulsion until age 21. That comment speaks volume. Even while acknowledging the child's strong track record, the administration still advocated for the most extreme punishment. It reveals a mindset focused not on growth, but on labeling and exclusion, regardless of a student's history or potential. Why would we place a process that's meant to offer compassion and alternatives in the hands of those who openly advocate for a harsher punishment than the school board itself is willing to impose? That is not a restorative mindset. It's punitive, and it undermines the intent of the policy before it's even implemented. The district is willing to learn from past mistakes and must also be willing to repair them. If this new policy exists because one child's experience made it necessity undeniable, that child shouldn't be left behind. We cannot build a more compassionate and equitable system on the shoulders of a child still carrying the weight of a father. This district took a painful situation and created a better policy. That's commendable. But true integrity requires more than changing course. It means going back and making things right. Don't let the child who opened your eyes to the need for change be the only one left out of its protection. Let this policy be a promise to all students, including the one who inspired. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment, Orion. All right, that's what we have for public comments this evening. All right, that concludes our visitor comments. We'll move along to district highlights with Jim.
All right, so we have two visitors tonight. I just want to make sure I got you in the right order. So we're going to start with Nico and Aiden from the Art Fusion class. Several of you had been part of a review of the Art Fusion work back in May. And that was the first step before what's referred to as the Junkyard Wars that's hosted by Blackhawk Technical College. So Nico and Aiden are going to just talk about their experience and point obviously to the artwork that's in the library as well. So I'll let you guys take it from
So I'm just going to kind of talk a little bit about what the whole event was, and then I'm going to hand it off to Aiden to kind of talk about the experience. So for the Junkyard Wars event, we went to the actual competition, which was hosted at Blackhawk Technical College. There was 10 teams that competed. We started out with a big pile of just like scrap metal and junk and whatever, and the teams had to go through and create a sculpture based off of theme. And then after 3-hour-long competition, it went judging and all that, and that was the process. So Aiden, talk about it. There was only 3 students. It was Aiden and then 2 other students could not.
Hi, I'm James Walker. I was one of the students that were asked. I was in his art fusion class this year. We did the stuff over there, and then we finally got to go to this. We got up super early, got to school here. That was a very fun experience. We got to go to the band, the schools we could bring, and then we got to the actual facility. The facility was massive. I was honestly impressed with it all. I was very honored to be picked to go. First got there, we saw a giant stack of metal rusted, filled with very sharp objects. So I had to be very careful going into it. We got a couple hours of free school to figure out what we want to do and everything. Up there is Tyler Russell. I can't remember Ari's last name, and then in the middle. We decided to do mascot. And art drawing, you're not the best artist. To be honest, I don't know if we done or something. That is that is our workshop area halfway through it. After we got there and planned out, we got to go to this giant grass ocean and free for all grass scrap and then bring it back to our work stage. Try to go from there and figure out. They were very kind to do. I kind of like followed them. Go ahead, have fun type of thing. Had 3 hours to make stuff. There's me putting out all my aircraft. Very fun, to be honest. It's like a race. But it was very fun. We spent a lot more time with it. It's not my expertise. Tyler went to this is so there to expand what we did. How to do it correct. Third, last, third, still amazing. I was happy. And they had that is our statue up there. It's the worst part, I'll tell you what. I don't know if it's the best, but it was something. For those 3 hours to do. Thank you guys.
You guys did not get a chance to see it. It is right up door. The other one there past or something.
How much time in class did they get to work on the projects that we saw?
I want to say they had like one last period of planning and then 7 or 8 last period.
So quite a bit more time than what they had in the competition.
I think we had 3 hours.
I have a question for you, Aiden. What would you have, looking back, and what did you learn from this experience? Like, what would you have done differently? I know you mentioned like the feathers took forever, but
Yeah, what I would have done differently is definitely grab that with feathers. But learning was definitely trying to plan it out, finding the best way.
Thank you.
Thank you. Following the art theme, Phillips is going to join us. You have ons with you? So Kim shared with her students the WA art contest, and she's going to talk about how they took an idea and ran, and the outcomes from it. And we have some art to share as well. So I'm gonna-
So the WPA has done an art contest every year. I had no idea about it until this year. So Meredith sent me in, and it was like the April, and I was like, oh my god, it's due in May. So I put it out to 3rd through 6th grade students, and I gave them the information. You could run with it, and you have to have premiere. So this home, here's the information. And I actually had quite a few students. And I had 3 students play won $500, and they're entered to win $1,500 for best of show. And so I'm very, very happy. I have 2 students here tonight that will talk about their a bit. So I had a 3rd grader. This is Avani. And then this is Ann. 4th grader. Then I had I'm sorry, 5th grader. And then I have a 4th grader plays Ari. So the finalists, the 1,500 is best in class in memory of art teacher from Arlington, Wisconsin, and her family. But her brother's a doctor, So this is Avni. She's going to tell you a little bit about it, how she made it. So. Yeah, like, well, what did you, how'd you get the idea? And then what did you, I don't, like, how did you, yeah.
Avani, can I ask you a question? Over here. What's the name of your dog? Does Kiwi like to get a bath or no? No. He doesn't look, or he or she doesn't look very happy, so you captured it perfectly in here. This is great.
So the theme was happiness. So, and from the start, I had in my mind. I did. I was so I changed like myself and I and it turned out to be really good. So colored it. No. That's it. So there's then Aria, she told me she dried flowers, real flowers. And
Can we look forward to more students participating in this art contest in the coming years? Absolutely love it. Thank you guys so much. They're wonderful. Is that all we have for district highlights?
Yep, that's a pretty
All
hard
right.
to top that, but yes.
Yeah, no, it's hard to top that. That was fabulous. All right, up next we have correspondence.
Yep. I shared with the board an email complimentary of Kelsey and Melissa. I don't have a hard copy since that was email, but it's in your notes. And then we do have a thank you card from a past staff member's family member that was appreciative of. And then one of our award winners from the Newman Scholarship, Adeline, sent a thank you note that also was to be shared with the board. So I'm passing that around as well. And you have scans of those as well.
All right, thank you for that. Up next, I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion made by Ryan, seconded by Alan. Any further questions, comments, or discussion? Hearing none, we'll take that up for a vote. All those in favor of consent agenda approval, say yes.
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 All opposed, say no. Motion passes 7-0. Up next, we have reports. We have our first one is our Director of Transportation report.
Good evening. So, our brand new bus that we got. First off, I want to say, just give you a little bit of information on this one. This is not exactly the bus we ordered. That bus is technically not due in until December of this year. And once we figured that out, we contacted Nelson and said, hey, you know, we ordered this bus back in July of 2023. We really can't wait that long for another new bus. So what they ended up doing is giving us one of their stock buses that they purchased. And so we got a few little upgrades on this bus. One, it has a white roof. If you ever notice our neighbors to the south, most of their buses have white roofs. What that is intended for is in the summertime, it's supposed to actually keep the inside of the bus cooler. And then one of the nice things is this one has both, the front two seats have built-in child seats. So when they're not in use, that's the first picture there. And then in the second picture, you can pull it down and they're a 5-point harness. So that's really nice. And then this bus also has a heated driver's seat. And that came in quite nicely this winter. We also partnered with the trades class again. And they did tire rotation on the Caravan. And then they also did an oil change on the Honda Pilot that we have. Unfortunately, I don't have any pictures of that. So that's something that Nico and I have talked about, and we're going to continue that as long as we can. And then this year, we kind of talked about safety protocol with severe weather. We didn't have anything in place for this, and back in May, middle of May, we had 2 days where we kind of got hit with some severe weather. The one night was the hail. And Jim and I had talked, and Jim asked me what protocol was, and I said, really don't have protocol, and it's something to think about. So we've been talking about that, what we would do, and as I have listed here, if it's just a watch, we continue. If it's a warning, and we're still in town, we'd come back to the elementary school, unload, go down in the basement. Unfortunately, if we're out on a route, not going to probably have enough time to get back to town, depending on the circumstances. So at that point, I said, what I would do is go to the first available house, the next student that I'm dropping off, and get everybody inside and take shelter there. Do you have any questions?
I have a question on that.
Yeah.
For the warning piece, would that be communicated out to families?
I'm assuming, yes, that it would be.
We had a draft message before the last storm. So we had the big storm that was May 15th.
Mhm.
And then there was one that queued up, and we watched that throughout the day. We had a message queued just to inform families. We were trying to strike that balance between informing and escalating.
Right, right. Yeah.
So we
I'm
were
just,
prepared for that. So that was Kyle and Kelsey and I were trying to make that call. Unfortunately, that storm dissipated early in the day. You know, instead of heating up throughout the day and then bursting, we didn't have to go there. But one of the things we will do this coming year leading into that season is just like we do with the snow season now. I mean, we've gotten to the point where now our weather is not as predictable as it used to be. So just like we do in November, hey, winter's coming, we're going to do the same thing for the
Perfect.
spring.
Yeah.
But for this year, because we hadn't done that yet, we're trying to decide that. And I was all queued up, and we collectively agreed. Translation, I was persuaded not to send it out because we didn't want to escalate people unnecessarily.
Yeah. Yeah. I just don't want parents calling the office at 4
Yeah.
o'clock being like, my kids are supposed to be
Yeah.
dropped off at 3:45, but there's a severe thunderstorm.
Yeah, there would have been a barrage of
Right.
all, Facebook shit. And Instagram, that's what Instagram and all that. We would have stuff.
Okay. Thank you.
I love that the driver got a heated seat. So do we get to keep that first bus, or is that just until?
Nope, that
it's
is
a
our
loaner
bus.
until we get
Yep,
the?
that is our bus. They will be
Okay.
actually keeping our bus and then using it as one of their stock buses.
Okay, so we got upgraded
We got
for free
upgraded.
because they couldn't deliver on time.
Correct.
Cool. Well,
Correct.
congrats to, is that Rogers
That
bus
is
now?
Rogers.
Rogers.
Bus.
Okay,
That's
congratulations,
I was going to
Roger.
ask who gets
Not
to
to, not to call anybody out, it's Rogers bus.
So just an FYI, all buses will probably have heated seats now because it's quite nice.
That was actually going to be my follow-up question was, does everyone get heated seats in the near future?
I think in the near future, and I want to go back to those seats too. That is, I believe, those are roughly about $1,000 for each seat. But that's a very nice addition because right now we currently have just a lap belt that we can put onto the seat, but they're not the greatest. And then we also have a seat that was purchased through Nelson's actually, and there's a seat belt that goes over the seat that you can hook it up to, and that one is roughly $250. So to have these on the seat and that don't come off is quite nice.
I love that. I also wanted to comment and say that I appreciate that the trade students are learning their stuff on like oil changes and whatnot on our vehicles. It's a win-win for, I think, everybody. And kind of wish I would have had the opportunity to do that when I went through high school.
A lot of people
many
have
moons
said
ago.
that.
Thank you for that.
Mhm. Any other questions?
All right, thank you. All right, next report we have is the Director of Athletics, Activities, and Community Education and Recreation. What's that?
Good evening. Go over the spring sports seasons. We still do have girls soccer playing, but I'll cover that when we get there. First one I want to go over is baseball. Baseball this year, we had a JV and a varsity team for a second year, which is awesome. Having that JV team provides a lot of more opportunities. One thing for baseball really opened my eyes even this year is I never thought about look at basketball or any other sport where your JV kids play either before or on a different day. Baseball you play simultaneously, so having two teams allow for freshmen, sophomores, and even juniors to get more time, which is great. This year, we almost had a four-way tie at 7-3 for 4 conference champions, which would have been crazy. We did end up playing 6-4, so we were 1 game shy. A lot of close ones. We're 8-17. We're graduating 6 seniors, and then this year we went down to over to Prairie du Chien as the 11th seed and lost to them 3-1. Girls softball. This year we had 16 girls, which is the highest we've had in quite a few years. We did win all our first conference games since 2021. We're trending in the right direction. The majority of the girls on that team are freshmen and sophomores, so hopefully we're able to retain them. And then we do have big 7th and 8th grade classes coming in too. So we've already started looking at possibly scheduling some JV games and even getting a JV coach, which I think for softball would be awesome because when you only play 9 girls and you have 16, it's really tough for those other 7. We played a lot of JV innings this year, so we just played 3 innings after the varsity game to make sure they got opportunity. But that's just stressful, not only on the varsity girls, because some have to play 3 extra innings that night. And it's just so it'd be nice to play an additional game. We did win our conference game. We were 4-15 this year. Those 4 wins actually were more than in the last 5 years combined. So again, trending in the right direction. And we're graduating 1 senior. This year they were seeded as number 9. They went to face number 8 Columbus on May 22nd, and they fell 3-7. But overall, a successful season. Girls soccer. Currently, we have 40 girls out in girls soccer. I believe that number's down to 38 with injuries currently right now. Girls soccer are in the playoffs. They went 17-2 during the season. 17-2-1 with a tie actually against McFarland. I'll talk here in a second. We got the number 2 overall seed out of 17 teams in soccer. So they combined both sections together for soccer and seed them, which is 17 seeds. Getting the 2 seeds is awesome. It means we were fortunate enough to host the regional semifinal against Jefferson. They won 9-0. that will be up there because it's after I made this. They won 9-0 in 60 minutes. The game ended early and they scored in a minute. That's never happened again. And then we hosted on Saturday against Mount Horeb, and we scored in 12 seconds, which was crazy. And they won that game 5-0. So now we were regional champions. We're going to go face McFarland at home Thursday, a sectional semifinal matchup. If we win that one, Raiders will go on to face either Bigfoot or Edgewood. That game should be in Edgerton, but it might switch depending on who else wins for sections, for travel time, and whatnot. Pretty cool, and if you're a history dork like me, the boys last year when they won state actually played McFarland in the sectional semis, Edgewood in the sectional finals before going on to state. So kind of cool if the girls did the same. Track and field. This year we had a 37 girls out for track and field, 48 boys. It's a little bit difficult to read, but the non-parenthesized numbers up there would be the Belleville students, and then the parenthesized numbers would be the Blair students, and then equals how many people are out there. So we had 13 Belleville girls and 19 Belleville boys. Graduate quite a few, but we bring a lot in from the 8th grade high school track and field team. You will see we are splitting that co-op going into next year, and what that really will do is provide a lot more opportunity for our Belleville athletes to get to compete. If you were at any meets or able to see some of the heat sheets, it's great that we had so many athletes out, but when you have 85 total athletes and you can only have 25 entries, so if you have 37 girls and you only have 25 events, it's really tough to give every girl 4 events. I don't know, most competed in 1 or 2. So it'd be nice. It'll be good to have an opportunity. We did have quite a few move on to state this year, including a 4x100 team. Vivian Lancaster, Gracie Atkinson, Clean Blaze, Lena Westfall. We did have a shot putter, Bubba Whedon, qualify for state, and then Jonah Wortman as well qualified for the 100 meter, 400 meter, 800 meter, and the shot put, all in the wheelchair division. None of them won state, but they all performed really well. Jonah podiumed in 3 of his events, as well as our 4x1. He PR'd, got 11th still, but PR'd, which is really incredible. Being at the state meet is just a tough competition. So, they had a great experience. And more next year. We will just, if anybody's curious, this year we're 2 for track and field. We should be, if something crazy happens, Belleville will be a 3 track and field. So our regional will be new, our sectional will be new. Boys golf this year, we called Monticello. We get 17 golfers out. If you look at if you were to look at the demographics for the golf team, it's mostly juniors and seniors every year. I think there's 2 reasons for that. One, they like to drive themselves to the practice at the golf course, and then 2, Edelweiss, which is wonderful. They allow Glarus and a Verona golf team to golf there. That means that we only get to send 5 kids out there to golf and practice every day. So as a freshman and sophomore, if you're not superb at golf really is hitting off turf off a mat into a cage over and over and over again. And it's going to be a tough one to grow. We're going to continue to, but Edelweiss is wonderful again, but they have a business to run. They have leagues and memberships they have to continue to honor. So that number you're going to mostly see stay at that, and mostly be juniors and seniors just for that reason. We had 1 golfer qualify for sectionals, Evan Thomas, and no qualifiers for state. Middle school track, we had, I believe it says 18. We had 18 7th graders and 27 8th graders participate in middle school track this last year. 2 things we're going to do to improve the middle school track experience is we are going to be adding 2 more meets next year. So New Glarus having a track will allow us to have another meet there. And then we added both Middleton Cromery and Middleton Glacier Creek to our little co-op of Mount Horeb, Glarus, Monroe, Wisconsin Heights, and then those 2 and us. So that will allow us to have. They're only going to host 1. They'll host 2 meets, but 3 teams each at 1 meets. So we'll have 6 meets instead of 4. And then also we're going to allow or give the opportunity for 6th graders to also compete in middle school track next year. We're going to hope that gets more kids interested and involved in track to get them to come out at high school level. And The only downfall for the sixth graders is there's no sixth grade division, so they run against seventh graders. So sometimes it's a little confidence shaker when you've always been fast and now you're sprinting against a kid older than you, and sometimes it shakes their confidence. But the hope is to get them to enjoy track and get that opportunity at sixth grade level. Streaming, we're still streaming on Huddle. I'm honest with you, it's been awesome. It's made my life a lot easier for scheduling wise, because we schedule it on Huddle, actually programs the camera to start automatically. If someone saw me last year, I was physically sometimes running, go start the stream because like I could get there. It needed to get done. Maybe something faltered and I couldn't get the phone. So I could it's so much better now. John B. National Block at Media Class got a chance to see some of the advertisements that have been on there. It's been great. Him stepping into that communications role also is going to help out tremendously with commercials and games, having kids there and running it more often. It's going to get better. It already is good, and it's just the fall sports information, which Lincoln is going to be here. Football's August 5th, volleyball, soccer, cross country August 18th. The middle school girls volleyball will be September 2nd. Yeah, it doesn't feel too far away, to be honest with you, which is crazy to say. Nancy, thinking about buses again, having to transport all those kids. And then we are again moving middle school sports to Banco. Banco's been used for a couple other things. It was actually extremely successful for the pool sign up. I was here with Melissa. We were sitting there, Pete Swenson as well. We were kind of all stressing the night it came out. We were like, well, is it really going to be able to handle all this and whatnot? And it was so fascinating. Hit refresh. I kid you not, 2 minutes ago, 150 registrations. People were just ready to go. It was quick, but it handled it. It was awesome. It does refunds really well. It worked exactly how we wanted it to, so I was very pleased with that. Yoga session 4 actually begins tomorrow, so I was between. So all yoga classes from 6:30 to 7:30 on Tuesdays for the summer starts tomorrow. And other opportunities will also continue to be posted on there. Other school opportunities have been posted on there as well, which have really helped streamline. So it's been awesome. That is my last slide.
Is there a, I think in the past there have been like community flyers sent out to homes or something that say like what the community events are. Is there something like that coming out in the summer for summer thing?
No, but we could. I've been using that money or planning to use those funds that were used for those flyers for supplies for some of the things that, for example, the adult leagues that come in, that Wednesday night leagues, they didn't have any like balls to use, so I used some of those funds for things like that. I'm hoping to maybe use like some of those funds for equipment, or like convince someone to the ball league to do some equipment for that and whatnot. I'm hoping to be able to use John to communicate those things out in a different way. The flyers, because quite honestly, I was looking at the budget that the previous that used for the flyers. It's such a not a waste of money, but it could be.
Is that something that we have posted on the website or could post on the website, even as now that school's sort of winding down, if we're looking for banners or something
Yeah,
like that? Like,
I think we can work on that.
yeah, that'd be cool. Thanks. I also want to say congrats to like all of the students. Like this is a lot of really great stuff, and I definitely see growth in a lot of areas. So I'm really excited to see what's coming next, and excited for bringing track down to the 6th grade students as well, so that they can participate and start getting involved early. And I know my kids are super excited about it. So. Thanks, Zach. Up next, we've got the Director of Student Services, Seclusion and Restraint.
Playing baton with the clicker. They're playing baton with the clicker.
Okay. We'll start with student services. As the year progressed, we did have, additional behavior threat assessment management training
So Kelsey and Kyle are now also trained. So there's 4 of us that are trained to be able to complete that assessment. And Liz and Melissa will be going at the end of June. So the full administrative team will be able to complete the behavior threat assessment. Just nice to have more than just Keely and I. Because there have been days or weeks this year that we multiple of them in one week, and there's a lot of work that goes on the backside of that after you've done work. So it's nice to have a variety of people to be able to do that. We are moving forward with Speak Up, Speak Out. That is the tip line that's created by the Office of School Safety in the state of Wisconsin. It is free to us to use, which is different than Sprigio. They have revamped it quite a bit in terms of being able to report to us much quicker. And you can report just about the same things that you were reporting to Sprigio with it. They can report bullying, they can report threats, they can report suicide, any of that, and it comes directly to us. And when a student makes a tip to Speak Up, Speak Out, they talk directly to a person immediately, whether that's you're calling on the phone or you're making an electronic tip, someone will respond and then automatically contact. Based on the type of tip it is, it'll either go to myself and law enforcement, or it'll go to myself and the principal, and then we can decide from there what happens from it. And there was a grant available from the Department of Justice that allowed us to get some swag for Speak Up, Speak Out. They gave us $2,000. So we were able to buy some signage and some shirts and just other swag that we'll be able to use to promote Speak Up, Speak Out. There'll be a rollout to the staff in the fall as part of our back to school stuff. And then again, we continue to work on mental health. That has been our priority in student services, and it will continue to be our priority next year. We did add another school-based mental health provider, so we've been working with Orion and Positive Insights. We this year actually created a partnership with Foundation Counseling, the local one here in town. So that's exciting to have another option to be able to provide, because Orion and Positive Insights had waiting lists within the first month. So it's nice to have another option. This is a summary about our multilingual program. So I'm going to give straight up kudos to Katie Warple. I didn't do any of the stats gathering. She takes care of all of that. But we have about somewhere between 15 to 17 students that will be in EL programming. This is for the upcoming year, so next year. And that increases to 24 to 26 students when you think about our bilingual bicultural program. And then we have 10 students that move to monitoring status, which means based on their access scores, they can exit out of the EL program, but we monitor them until they reach the next level of access scores. Access is the test we give to our multilingual students to see where they are in their English proficiency. Middle and high school, we have 8 students that will be in EL programming for middle school, the bigger number than we've had in quite a while. And then we'll have 13 students in the EL program high school, and we have 1 student that moves on. So Katie and Mary have been doing lots of work on making plans on how we're going to support students and making sure that we continue to have that success with our students. We showed a lot of gains on the access scores this year. Again, that is fully embargoed for a while, so I can't share that until we get for the release. But we did have quite a few students that made great gains on the access this year. Kudos to Katie and Mary. They do a fantastic job with our students. And then last but not least is special education. We had a busy year this year in special education, although when I look back to last year's data, we probably did just as many initials last year as we did this year. It just felt like a lot more. Part of that comes from Act 20, right? We are monitoring students and putting them through that screener. And so some of our students were catching a lot sooner. So we had 36 initial evaluations this year for special education. 21 of those students qualified, meaning they moved on to an IEP. 12 of those students moved to 504, meaning, and some of those students met the impairment for special education. It's a 2-step process, but didn't have a need for special education, meaning we could meet their needs through a 504 plan, which is a little less restrictive, and is more about accessing the general education. And then obviously we had a few students that didn't qualify. We had 8 504 evaluations, which means a family or a staff member just referred to 504, did not go through special education. All of those were found eligible and have received the plan. And then we did 3 non-EENs, which is EEN is exceptional education needs, special education in an acronym. And those typically are for, 2 of them were for advanced learning students to see if they would qualify for advanced learning. And one of them was just us, family wanted some additional testing with that to provide information. So not counting speech and language only rolling into the 25-26 school year, those are our numbers right now for special education. Although I should add, I think we qualified 2 students last week, so that's 63 at the elementary and 12 at the middle school. Those are our numbers. Thank goodness we hired additional staffing to recommend them. That's a lot of students. And then lastly, as part of my reports, I yearly have to provide you seclusion and restraint. I did not put it on the slide, partially because that is, they're pretty small numbers, can be pretty personal identifying. I will tell you we did have a slight increase in some of our seclusion restraints. But I will, when I just disaggregated the data, I did find that the majority, which would be all but one seclusion restraint, happened in the first semester of the school year. So showing us that we were able to work plans, develop plans, and move through the behaviors in order to no longer have seclusion and restraints. And we had one at the middle school, high school that happened.
Can you clarify what qualifies as restraint? Like, what is the threshold for that?
Restraint means that we have a student who is endangering themselves or others, and it means that we will put them in a hold that does not allow them to voluntarily move their body. And we, anybody who does the seclusion or restraint has been trained, and we are trained they're on a 2-year cycle. So every summer, we have a group that goes through. So people that were trained 2 years ago will train. If you are not trained, you do not perform seclusion or restraint. And then we abide by all the regulations in terms of filling out the report, notifying parents. If it is the second ever restraint or seclusion for a student, an IEP is held, or some type of accommodation plan is held immediately. And then every 2 after that, one is done as well. If the student has a behavior intervention plan, we're reviewing that behavior intervention plan and changing support.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right.
Thanks, Becca.
Thank you.
All right, next report we have is the district administrator report on donations, recent district events, and upcoming committee meetings.
All right. Our first piece is donations. We had 1 donation this month, tied in with the earlier comment from the communication that went around for the correspondence related to that scholarship, the Newman Scholarship. So Christy Newman will donate another $250 for that. So we should see the Newman Scholarship to continue on with that additional fund. I put the logo down there for the Newman night just to tie that. Very excited. We got this news on Friday. I did not have a chance to coordinate with Mrs. Bartley, but this is a big part of her work as well. So every year, if a graduating student ends up with a certificate, and I put a link in for the board, the list of qualifying certificates changes every year. I mean, it doesn't fully change over, but there's some that go on. There's some things like mouse certification, ProStart certification, Snap-on tool certification, all these different things. The student has 1 or more when they graduate. We can submit their name to the state. We can get up to $1,000 per student, but it really depends on the pool of money and how many put in. you can see that that pool of money drew it. I mean, the good news is it drew it down because there's lots of kids in the state getting certification. And anytime a student can walk out of a high school with a certification, it means they're that much more employable, or doors open for them that may not have opened. So 18 is a really big number for a district our size, and that money gets to be put right back in. Of course, I wasn't paying attention. We have a repeat picture on there, right, doing the tires. So anyway, we're very excited to get that announcement. You heard this from Zach's report as well. We're really excited about the conference champions. So we had 3 conference champions this year in terms of teams. We also had this since we met last, the Wildcat Wall of Fame. What a wonderful morning, May 30th. Some great speeches, well-placed tongue-in-cheek comments, especially from G and Michael Connor. But anyway, it was a really wonderful day. And then that's the photo of all the past and current winners. The ceremony and the post-ceremony in here about the same amount of time, and they were both wonderful events. I think the post-ceremony was equally as exciting, just to be able to see everyone in here, and especially the soccer team, the soccer veterans waiting to see Bob was pretty important. And of course, and we mentioned this yesterday during graduation, just the students and their ownership in that process and the support led by Mr. Hodgson is just phenomenal. And having them take the lead. And I will tell you, in this process, we had to go to them when we had some sticky decisions to make. They didn't have any difficulty making the right choice. On our theme of art, we have a couple of our winners. This was not a school competition. It was the Village Chalk Walk, and Jack and Lillian earned that second place award. And it was right down in front of, right across from Johnny O's, right by Village Hall. So we're really excited at that. So we have a good art theme going this month. And we had the Ag in the Classroom award that went to Rachel in Patty Weiler's class. So that was a nice presentation for $100 for her prompt. A nice award for our fourth grade. And that was a Wisconsin competition. I think I gave the data for the number of participants in Dane County as well. Our pep band, they played, our band's played quite a few places. They were last out at the world's largest pep band. I'm not sure if they actually were the world's largest pep band, but it was sold pretty hard by the Mallard. And of course, we heard them yesterday as well. So I think finally, Mrs. Meyer can really working hard to get our students out and about. And then it was graduation season. So of course, we had our kindergarten graduation. That was the second one of the day. And you can see their, when they're singing and the arms up in the air. So that was really exciting. And then earlier in the day, we had the 6th grade graduation, and hearing from the 6th grade teachers and all the students being able to do their, sharing their reflections that chose to present. And then finally, of course, yesterday we had high school graduation. And the picture in the bottom left, I think, was one of my favorite moments when they collect the flowers and go and that moment right before the end is pretty special. And surprised that we could actually rein everyone back in. He's got everyone following the directions. Of course, Nikki in the bottom center, that was a little pregame and fun to watch her do her part as well. But it was a really wonderful week, especially with the walkthrough on Friday and all the different activities that took place. So, and again, thanks to Katie and Beth for being hold my hand out this year. See who gets to that next year. Should always see Ryan and Ty. So I saw the pictures of it past year. One and done. I did do a second look when I saw it. I think that's it. All right. Oh, there is one more here. It's not going forward. We have our for some reason we're not clicking forward. There we go. The upcoming meetings. So all these start next fall, but just on everyone's radar that we are queued up for our future meetings. And of course, the farthest one out is negotiation and compensation. And that one is positioned there just because that's after the CPI, Consumer Price Index, comes out. That's it.
And I'll say the high school graduation was very, very cool. There was a lot of stuff done, I think, at that ceremony as well as before the ceremony, like the walkthrough, like through the school buildings. And I know there was like the Wildcat time machine video that that we did for the kindergarten one, like it was just very, very, very cool to see all the neat things that we do around graduation to celebrate our kids. So thanks to everybody who's involved in making that magic happen.
And Kyle and Kelsey's leadership and making sure they have everything in place for that.
All right, thanks for that. Up next, we have our CISA 2 report from Marion.
Thank you. So we had our last Board of Control meeting on May 20th. It was a virtual meeting. And we had a presentation by Megan Kropp. She's the CISA 2 purchasing manager. If you have a chance, please go through the presentation that I included with the report. And then, as you can see, Dan had lots of information to present. One of the things he talked about the PAC meeting for May, they had attorney Jenna Rosso, I'm not sure if I'm saying that correctly, speak about leasing district property. I'm sure Jim had some questions for her. And then all the other directors had items. And then we discussed the JEDI teacher contracts for 2025-26, and then the line of credit and just some other Head Start policies and actions. And our next meeting will be on June 17th. It's our delegate session, so we'll have a speaker and then hopefully representatives from 72 school districts waiting to be on the Board of Control.
Thank you, everybody, for your reports. Next, we'll move on to discussion and possible action items. First of which is a donation, the monument of a double-sided illuminated sign with electronic message center, and I'll entertain a motion for that.
I'll make a motion to approve the donation of a monument double-sided illuminated sign with an electronic message center as presented.
Second.
Motion made by Beth, seconded by Ryan. We'll open that up for discussion.
So we're just going to pull up, I just tagged a couple of photos. Oh, yep. Going down. There we go. So the phase here tonight, Jim and Cheryl, thanks for coming. We have been working with them and the policy committee to, in terms of accepting this donation. So at first, the policy committee, given that we were adding a name to it, wanted to make sure as they were updating the policy on naming, whether or not this fell under that work, and they determined it does not. This simply falls under the typical donations that when it's above $2,500 requires board approval. The value on this is somewhere between $50,000 and $60,000. The district's put in is for the electrical. I would love to tell you exactly how much that costs. The vendor that we're working with said really we're subject to the engineers from the city. So if it's approved, then we'll reach out to Terry DeWitt from Wisconsin Sign and Graphics. Terry then puts in for a permit, which then cues in the engineers and determine, are we going to run the power from like the swimming pool, or do they have to put in a new meter, things like that. Steve did some preliminary estimates. We think it's under $2,000 for that. Just to get us a really rough estimate, and considering the value of the sign, not significant at all compared to the value of the sign. So the sign itself, the base that you're seeing there is 3 feet in terms of height, and then it goes up another 9 feet. So the top of the sign will be about 12 feet off the ground. You can see the width there as well, and if I can do my quick math, about a little just under 3 feet wide. And then to give you a look, and by the way, you'll notice we made one adjustment. The original, you'll notice the shield is on the bottom left instead of, you'll notice on these next one it says BHS, but that's just going to be the shield with the Wildcat on the top. And then you can see the location is, see how good I can, well, I probably won't show it on the screen. But you can see that on the far right photo there, there's the track, the pool, and it really sits about halfway in between. There's a fence there. It's 30 feet to the west of the fence, end of that fence. I only know that because I measured it. But it sits out a really nice spot. We had thought about putting it down closer to where the old sign is. That old sign is just where the current village sign is. The challenge you have with that one is that sign works really nice if you're coming at that location, if you're coming into town, because it's a straight shot. But when you're coming up out of town, you do a turn just before the sign. So you really wouldn't see this look until the last second. Putting it up there a little bit further, I think will give it a more pronounced look to it. That was the original site. We went around. We thought we were I don't know, suddenly more enlightened and thought about moving, and then we found ourselves right back to where we started. So, anyway, so I do have a summary in there of the more of those details. And again, this is honor their opportunity to honor passing a Chuck from last fall, and that would be you can see right there at the bottom. I don't know if the board has questions for me or the FACE since they're here regarding the bonus. We're excited for that opportunity to be able to showcase not just the high school but all schools. And I enjoyed listening to Jim mention, and he was talking about sports and arts and forensics and all that, and all the different things we can have up there. As you heard tonight, we obviously represent all those different things. Yeah, so right. Yeah, the home of the wild. Yeah, so like on that top left picture, the more reddish area is the part that would change.
Yeah.
The top left. Yep, and that top banner and the side states.
And how difficult is it to figure out a message for it?
Thank you very much for asking that question. I left that part out. Originally, we had thought that we thought we had to run an Ethernet cable out there and all that sort. It is goes over a cellular signal. We get a 5-year license with that as well. And John B. Nash is going to be queuing up a lot of that. And just like a lot of social media posts, we can queue a lot of that language up ahead, so it's already prepared. So he already can know ahead of time what we want on there, and walk away on a weekend, and there might be the football game on Friday, and Saturday is a concert, and it can flip right over to do that without anyone having to turn the key. We heard some horror stories about from some districts in the Madison area having to walk out with the Wi-Fi, walk it with the laptop, and get just close enough to make a change. But yeah, we'll be able to queue a lot of that up.
Well, thank you guys. This is a wonderful gift. Thank you both. Incredible.
Well, he's done quite a few schools in this area. Yep. Yeah. And our target date is the start of the school year. Goal is to have it run by September 1.
Yeah, I was going to ask what the timeline was. So that's very cool. Thank you.
It looks absolutely beautiful. I do have a few questions. So you mentioned that we have like the tech covered through for 5 years. What is the cost to that?
I couldn't get
afterwards,
Terry
do
to
you
give
know?
me an exact number, but we're still working that out, but I don't think it's going to be significant, and I don't think it'll actually be the same package in 5 years as it is now. So it's pretty hard to predict, but typically those packages will run you under $40 a month. Be able to do that.
And then I think we probably have talked about this, but how future-proof is this? Like if we start adding bike paths or sidewalks to that building, because I know the village is looking at doing some work on the highway.
So
Are we out of the danger zone of like any big reconstruction happening there?
Yeah, we brought that up with Terry, and he said right away, because we know that that path's coming, he says that path is not going there. Plus, he will be bringing that to the village, so they'll have to cross-reference that with their paths as well, so they still have to permit.
I'm going to put Zach on blast back there. Do you know when the first home football game is, Zach? I knew you would.
They say the 8th.
The reason I ask is it would be pretty cool to have the sign ready for that football game on the 29th. I think Chuck would have appreciated. Okay.
You guys are allowed to throw dollars at them if you see it.
Jim, just one question.
Yeah.
Do we have any security cameras or anything like that going on with that sign out there? Because that's a pretty substantial investment. It'd be great if we did something to make sure that should something happen, we
Yeah, we can work on that piece as well. I can talk to Chris.
Any other questions, comments, or discussion regarding the sign? All right, hearing none, the motion is to approve the donation of a monument double-sided illuminated sign with an electronic message center as presented. All those in favor say yes.
Yes. Yes.
All opposed say no. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you guys very much. Much
Thank you.
appreciated. Next item on our agenda is the 2026 German class trip request, and I'll entertain a motion there.
I'll make a motion to approve the trip to Germany, Austria, and Switzerland in summer of 2026 as presented.
Motion made by Ryan, seconded by Marion. Opening that up for discussion.
So Frau was not able to join us, but stepping in her place is Kyle.
So yeah, this is, some of you probably been on the board when this has been approved in the past. This is not a yearly thing, but this is a continued occurrence. Frau did make the sad note with me that most likely this will be her last time organizing it. So yeah, it's a great opportunity to provide for any of the students who have been enrolled in German classes. She partners with a former German teacher who I am trying to find her name right now so I don't forget it, and I feel bad about that. Hold on.
I have it in the notes as well.
I'm not going to remember.
Janine
right now.
Onsager?
Thank you. Yes. And then probably another one of our teachers, either Nikki Vesperman or Meredith Smith will be joining it as well. Very similar to past trips that we've had with Spain last year and lots of other ones. So another great chance. She's had a couple pre-meetings just to get interest, and we have plenty of interest already for the students to be going. So really, we're just making sure to keep you guys in the know.
How old do the students have to be to,
High school, we go 9 through 12.
and they got to be enrolled in German?
Yes.
Tell my daughter.
Any other questions, comments, or discussion?
Do they do, I think the answer is yes. Do they do any fundraising leading
Yes.
up to this?
Yep.
All right, anything else from folks? All right, hearing none, the motion is to approve the trip to Germany, Austria, and Switzerland in summer of 2026 as presented. All those in favor say yes.
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 All opposed say no. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you. Next item on our agenda is competitive dance and cooperative approval, and I'll entertain a motion there.
I'll make a motion to approve the competitive dance cooperative with the Verona Area School District for the 2025-2026 and 2026-2027 academic years.
Motion made by Beth, seconded by Meg. We'll open that up for discussion.
So this was a activity that students in our school joined, the Verona students. And it was not considered a Verona sport at the time. It was really a parent-led activity. Verona has shifted to make this part of their sports program. It is not a WI sanctioned sport, so it's a little bit different in the fact that it doesn't follow the official co-op paperwork that a WI co-op will follow. But Verona still wanted to have a formal agreement between, since they've adopted that, between all of the schools that have students participating. So this is where I can't remember, just like Kyle. I think we have one student there this year. So again, this just formalizes that relationship, just like we do the WI sanctioned sports as well. Is that pretty accurate? That's about it.
And it's just the two districts. It's just Belleville and Verona. There's no other districts in the stance one.
Really, it came from a dance club in Verona. Now that they're recognizing it as a sport, I think they're having each district might have some individuals in their interest in formalizing.
And essentially, there's not really any cost or
Nothing at all.
coordination on the behalf of Belleville. It's just allowing our students to be able to participate under them. Yep.
Correct. I talked with the athletic director. If it ever gets to the point where we're sending, then have to readdress it. But it's sincerely just for the formality of having it signed.
Do we
We're not providing transportation.
No, nothing. Just agreeing to be partners with them.
do we know if there's additional interest in that on more Belleville students
I'm hoping
joining that?
Yeah, I'm hoping that if you've been to a couple basketball games, those 6th, 7th, 8th grade individuals that have done some cheer for us, if those people have some interest in it, that would be the hope. Because we do have a few that are interested, just always high school level. It's tough because this competitive dance team goes summer through spring. It's the whole year, so it really, with how touring they are. Yes, we're gonna hopefully find a couple more out of it.
And is this a boys and girls opportunity, or is the dance team only open to girls? I didn't see anything indicating.
I believe it's boys and girls.
Okay.
They're interested.
Excellent.
And it's 9 through 12? Or is it?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
I'm sure they're dancing. Come on out, join our dance club.
Any other questions or comments or discussion from the board? All right, hearing none, the motion is to approve the competitive dance cooperative with the Verona Area School District for the 2025 to 26 and 2026 to 27 academic years. All those in favor say yes.
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 All opposed say no. Motion passes 7-0. Next item on our agenda is the 2025 to 26 middle and high school athletic and activities handbook approvals. And I'll entertain the first motion there.
Make a motion to approve the 2025-2026 athletic handbook as presented.
Second.
Motion made by Ryan, seconded by Meg. We'll open that up for discussion.
And let Zach explain, he's got a small number of changes that are highlighted yellow on your draft. Talk through a few of those.
Yeah, just a few. First change that we were hoping to make is currently we run the pass list every week. We're looking to move that to every 3 weeks. That just provides students who either miss for sickness or appointments time to make up tests, as well as teachers with the time to get grades in as well. We have a fantastic student body here. Most of the time, if they're on the pass list, it's because they were sick or something else like that. So this just allows more time for everybody involved. It just makes a little bit more sense than everything. The second change will be the Belleville transportation waiver. We really tackled that this year a little bit with having to transport shuttle kids to New Glarus for soccer, having them transport themselves. We actually went through our legal team and got a document that was a little bit better than what we had before. But this will also help during the registration process. Parents can now complete that waiver during the registration process as well. And then say I'm a soccer coach and I have a student that wants to go home. They completed that waiver. Now all they have to do is sign a sheet of paper with me as the coach at the game and go home. That's going to prevent families from currently under our current system you wanted to take your kid home from a baseball game, you had to fill out a form every single baseball game. Which means I have 2 binders full of papers in my office full of individual ones where it's going to be a much better system in that regard. Let me see. Any other changes that are popping up? I think those are the 2 big changes. And I'm not seeing any other highlighted things here. Am I forgetting anything? I think so.
For that transportation waiver, that also applies if the student wishes to drive themselves back from.
Correct.
From
It's,
an
it's
activity.
all income. Well, yes, we don't let yes, it will help with that. So I'll give you a situation that happened last year. We had some students in Science Olympiad that also were in a sectional track meet, or maybe not sectionals, but a different track meet. They had to then drive themselves to Science Olympiad, then drive themselves to the track meet, and then drive themselves home. All because obviously we didn't have transportation for them to go there. So it would cover weird cases like that. I will say most of our coaches, if not all of our coaches' policies, are that you ride the bus home with your parents unless there is a real extenuating circumstance why you cannot. For example, we had a baseball family this year that lived in the Madison area, so when they were playing in Cambridge and Marshall and Waterloo, it made a lot of sense for them not to drive back all the way to Belleville, pick their freshmen up, and then go all the way back to Waterloo. So otherwise, all of our athletes would ride the bus. So it's just those weird situations that come up that we're going to help solve.
I'm sure parents and players everywhere rejoice not having to fill a form out every time.
It will be.
Other questions, comments, or discussion from the board? Hearing none, the motion is to approve the 2025 to 26 athletic handbook as presented. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
All opposed say no. Motion passes 7-0. And I'll entertain a motion regarding the middle school's handbook.
I make a motion to approve the 2025-2026 middle and high school activities handbook as presented. Why is it?
Motion made by Ryan, seconded by Marion, and we'll open that up for discussion.
And those are the same changes Zach had in the last one. He did a little updating of the activities on the second page of that handbook.
Questions, comments, or discussion from the board on that one?
One of the activities that's still there is mock trial. Do we offer that presently?
So we'll strike that.
Any particular reason we're removing the geography B and Kiwani's key leader? Has there just not been a lot of interest in those, or? Okay. 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 So those are events that are just largely not happening anymore. Okay. Thank you. Any other questions, comments, or discussion from the board? Hearing none, the motion is to approve the 2025 to 26 middle and high schools activities handbook as presented. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
All opposed say no. Motion passes 7-0. Next item on the agenda is the coaching and extracurricular advisor pay approval, and I'll entertain the first motion there.
I make a motion to approve the 2025-2026 coaches' salaries as presented.
Second.
Motion made by Ryan, seconded by Alan. Opening that up for discussion.
So this is part of our process of working through each of the different work groups in terms of the post-referendum salary. And this one was a little bit different because the percentages were higher because this group had experienced no change in salary for quite some time. It had been working off of a $40,000 base salary, even though the salary it was 40,000 times whatever the percent increment. So if the percent increment is like 3% per particular activity, take 3% of 40,000, that's what the pay. That number was stagnant, would never grow at all. And so this is doing a two-step really, is trying to bring those back in line to be competitive, but also to make sure that we don't have to do this each year, that will now follow when we change the base salary through negotiations. Pretty typical process to have that in place like that. And the overall cost actually was about 30 to 40% of what we thought it was. So even though those percentages were high, the numbers weren't that high. So the overall growth really was quite a bit within, range of what was considered reasonable. And it puts us more in line with our competitors in terms of in terms of pay. Zach's done a nice job of trying to collect the data from our peers in terms of their payment. And this doesn't, again, keep saying this over and over again, doesn't make us number one, doesn't make us the last one, really puts us in sort of that middle of the upper half. And it's some sports is really kind of funny when you look at them. You'll see these blips in terms of really high or really low, but in general, this puts us really in a steady spot within our conference.
Questions, comments, or discussion from the board? Hearing none, the motion is to approve the 2025 to 26 coaches' salaries as presented. All those in favor say yes.
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 All opposed say no. Motion passes 7-0. And I'll entertain a second motion.
I make a motion to approve the 2025-2026 extracurricular advisors' salaries as presented.
I'll second.
Motion made by Ryan, seconded by Beth. And we'll open that up for discussion.
This really follows the same rationale as the prior one, and again, puts us in line so that in the future, this pay will not stay stagnant. It'll grow as the teacher base grows as well.
Questions, comments, or discussion from the board on that one? Hearing none, the motion is to approve the 2025 to 26 extracurricular advisors' salaries as presented. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed say no. Motion passes 7-0. Next item on the agenda is grades 6 through 12 ELA curriculum materials approval, and I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion to adopt HMH into literature as the new English language arts curriculum materials for grades 6 through 12 as presented.
Second.
Motion made by Meg, seconded by Marion. We'll open that up for discussion.
As you can see in the attachment in the packet, so we looked at McGraw-Hill, Study Sync, and HMH into literature. Sarah Boutel had been piloting the HMH for the last 4 weeks of school. She did a whole unit with it. And Betsy Jenkins did a deep dive into Study Sync to see where we would be on both of them. And it was unanimous from the teachers. So that's comprised of Amanda Nemec, Emily Ballbeck, Richard Russell, Betsy Jenkins, and Sarah Boutel. And they unanimously decided on the HMH literature, partially because it is similar to what we've been doing 9-12. We had the former HMH, but it's revamped, has a lot more robust supports for our special education and for our multilingual learners, is very well laid out, has a writing curriculum that matches it, and also has a grammar component. One of the things that Sarah really liked about it was the vocabulary is tied in to whatever you're reading. So it's very organic versus here's our spelling list or here's our vocabulary list. It's very organic into what they're doing in that. It won't take much to transition to it from where we are right now. Currently 6-8 has had a build your own curriculum, and 9-12 has been using the old HMH and then supplementing it. So this will be a nice curriculum to bring fidelity to 6-12.
Any questions, comments, or discussion from the board? Hearing none, the motion is to adopt HMH into literature as the new English language arts curriculum materials for grades 6 through 12 as presented. All those in favor say yes.
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 All opposed say no. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is transportation and bus driver contract approval, and I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion to approve the 2025-2026 bus driver and transportation contracts as presented.
I'll second.
Motion made by Alan, seconded by Beth. We'll open that up for discussion.
This is simply, we had done this in August last year. We're moving this up so that we can get the paperwork done earlier to get everyone signed. But we approved their, the pay rates last month. So now we're just, Janan has everyone queued up. It's the same set of bus drivers, and assuming no one tries to bribe Roger out of having a heated seat, we'll have the same folks driving the same buses. And we'd like to get that queued up to take care of the contract signings.
The promise of the heated seats really must have kept everyone around. Comments, questions, or discussion from the board? Hearing none, the motion is to approve the 2025 to 26 bus driver and transportation contracts as presented. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Yes. All opposed say no. Motion passes 7-0. Next item on the agenda is district property and vehicle insurance renewal, and I'll entertain a motion there.
I make a motion to approve the district's property and vehicle insurance renewal with Tricor Insurance for the 2025-2026 school year.
Motion made by Alan, seconded by Ryan. We'll open up for discussion.
We had hoped to have this one last month, but because Tricor's person that did it was out, we weren't able to bring this in there. This is typically one of our, this is that home auto insurance. 7.9% increase is actually in our market better than what our peers are experiencing, so that's really good. All of that in light of the fact that we also increased the cybersecurity, doubled that because of the ransomware challenges going on to public entities. So overall, we're quite pleased with the rate that we received compared to what everyone else is experiencing, and also in light of the fact that we doubled our cyber security supports.
Questions, comments, or discussion from the board? Hearing none, the motion is to approve the district's property and vehicle insurance renewal with Tricor Insurance for the 2025 to 26 school year. All those in favor say yes.
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 All opposed say no. Motion passes 7-0. Next item on the agenda is the Neola 34.1 legal updates, policy 5505 and policy 5411 second readings. I'll entertain a motion there.
I make a motion to approve Neola 34.1 legal updates and policy number 5411 and policy number 5505 as presented.
Motion made by Ryan, seconded by Marion. Any further opening that up for discussion?
So Neola 34.1 is that big litany of policies that Neola brings to us to review, which the policy committee did. In addition to that, there's some language updates as well. And then 5505 is the artificial intelligence language that we've updated to be much more broad, so we don't get buried into a policy that's dependent upon the latest technology. Focuses on students really representing their own work. And 5411 is that policy on Act 20, which is required by all districts to adopt by January 30th. So thank you for bringing this for the second reading. We'll have that in place. Really doesn't kick in though for over a year, but it really meets that statutory requirement about the retention and promotion tied in with Act
20. Any questions, comments, or discussion from the board? Hearing none, the motion is to approve Neola 34.1 legal updates and policy number 5411 and policy number 5505 as presented. All those in favor say yes.
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 All those opposed say no. Motion passes 7-0. Final item on the possible action items is the approval of debt management task force. I'll entertain a motion there.
I make a motion to approve the debt management task force for the district as presented.
Second.
Motion made by Ellen, seconded by Meg. We'll open that up for discussion.
So we know that annually, it's always a challenge in terms of a variety of debt management issues, including repayment of debt. What this task force will do is very similar to the operational referendum task force from last fall, is it authorizes a task force to come together to look actually at policy 6147. So, and look at the language in there and see if there's any sort of changes that we want to see. We have seen other districts, this is a Neola policy. We have seen other districts put different language in there to really represent the goals of the board and how they might look at utilizing debt as a tool for fiscal stability within a district. So this would authorize a variety of things to happen. One is the committee itself. And the same standards would have exist as the last task force. Had to be an elector or a student in grades 11 and 12, coming into 11 and 12. And then, or a parent or guardian of someone presently enrolled as a student. And they have to be able to obviously attend the meetings. The number of meetings is less. Last time we authorized 5, we're looking at 3. A kickoff meeting followed, and then digging then into the work. And we think that we can get it possibly done in under 3, but we'll give ourselves the latitude in case we need all 3 as well. Then if this is, and then we would reach out, we would do an all call like we did last time. The board then would review applicants at its August meeting. So we have a little bit more time. We're not going to try to do it in July. So we review those at the August meeting, and then the work would take place in September, preparing for the annual meeting and budget hearing in October. So you can see the first meeting would be the 15th of September, then the 17th, 22nd. And then we would actually, if that was in place, have a couple of board meetings because our policy does require that there are 2 policy readings before policy is approved. So we'd have a couple of short meetings or short meening, one agenda basically item, 1 or 2 just to introduce it and then have that first reading. And then, so in terms of topics, but the discussion could go longer. And then we'd be prepared for that October set of events. And then we'd be working off board policy moving forward, which would provide a little bit more structure for the board. So yeah. So again, yes, we would reach out to past task force members, plus and I'll call it everybody.
And to be clear, the committee would meet once, essentially generate the policy or write the policy that we would use that would inform our spending and budgeting in the continuing years, so we'd only have to do this like one time, essentially. Yeah.
Oh yeah, when you said once meeting, it's
Yes,
overall.
Yeah, overall, like this one set of
Yeah.
meetings, and then that would inform how we as a district move forward indefinitely.
Unless the board and policy committees sought any reason to change the language.
Yeah. Okay. Fabulous. Questions, comments, or discussion from the board? Hearing none, the motion is to approve the debt management task force for the district as presented. All those in favor say yes.
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 All opposed say no. Motion passes 7-0. All right, next up, we've got discussion items, policies 5540 and 7250, first readings.
So policy 5540 is some language to distinguish between outside agencies coming to meet with students with judicial versus administrative warrants, and 7250 really does a big shift in overhauling how we name or look at the naming of schools, facilities, sites, and events, which was referred to earlier when we were looking at the sign that we approved the donation for today. So just 2 policies right now that had been unresolved at past policy meetings, and we just, rather than rushing them through, we decided to bring these separately. And then policy committee still has a few, like I think 3 or 4 that we still have to address at the August meeting. So this is just that first reading.
And for the naming of the schools, facilities, sites, and events, correct me if I'm wrong, there really wasn't much there before, but it's now kind of a lot clearer, and we've used policies from other local districts to kind of inform like what kind of wording and language we kind of came up with there.
Correct. Yes. That one's a big one.
Mhm.
For the school facilities and naming one, do we have any examples of upcoming ones that would need to go through this?
So,
policy?
yeah, no, at the moment, but we weren't sure when the sign came to us, if
Right.
that fell under that. So
Okay.
that was really what propelled. There was actually a couple different things. There was also talk about potentially an event
Okay.
being named. So we looked at both of those and really didn't, the existing policy didn't have a lot of clarity on how to reconcile those, especially the event. Like if you want to name a basketball tournament or a track meet or things like that after someone.
Okay.
It really didn't speak to that. So this really does broaden. You can see schools, facilities, site, and event. So we always tease, like naming the bus barn after someone. We have nothing in place really for that.
Okay.
Any other discussion around that item? All right, next item up for discussion is the strategic plan facilitator selection scoring.
Yep. So this is just a chance for everyone to catch their breath. We finally got the applications in on Friday, and as I know to the board, so the Donovan Group, Nexus, and then Brad Sarin and Steve Schrader, they are a group. So we have 3 different proposals, and so the link I provided to the board is a non-interactive, meaning you can't see the scoring from each other, but is the opportunity to score using the criteria for each of the proposals that we received. So you'll be able to score each proposal against strategic planning background, facility style and personality, listening skills, communication skills, fit with Belleville, and cost. It's important from your perspective. I would never expect you to be able to figure this out purely on the proposals, which is why the references are so important. We have 6 of them done now. Number 7 is scheduled for tomorrow. Still trying to get 8 and 9. And so it was really 3 references from each of the proposals. And I encourage you really to look at those carefully because you'll see some themes. And I can already say, like, so for example, the first 2 are from companies that have superintendents as the facilitators. The last one is a superintendent and a board member that on the side do this activity, the Aaron and Schrader piece. So those look a little bit different. The Nexus group and the Sarin Schrader group tend to have a larger contingency working between meetings. Like that planning and because there's these big events, right? They bring people together, and that big event is from the community. Seems like they have a larger contingency to do the planning, whereas the Donovan group is a little bit smaller. But that's what I have so far. But I think that's why I want to see all 3 of those references come in. There's some difference on costs as well. So you'll see that Donovan is the highest. Sarin and Schrader are a little bit less. Nexus is much cheaper, but of course, part of theirs, it's been pretty clear they also are involved in the facility audit piece, and that's been the connection on it looks to be a little bit cheaper there because they want to try to, pull you into their facility planning as well. So there's never a perfect choice. It's usually a choice that fits well with this. And so the district leadership folks, aside from me, and the 7 of you will have the opportunity to score. And then typically what we do is the scoring then is a weighted score. We take the score that you provide, and the rubric is in there times the weighting. It ends up with this big number. And what we do is we look at the numbers and we look to see if there's a clear winner, so to speak, from the scoring. If there is, then we just bring that back. If there's not, I'll probably come back with a way to say, okay, these are maybe the top 2, and we'll try to find a way to distinguish on how those are going to be, how we would differentiate those. But until you actually read through those proposals and look at the references to score, and then put in the numbers in, and then I'll be able to see where everything lands. And I'm hopeful that there's one that distinguishes, but really, I've been asked before, how are people going to decide? Well, really, the system everyone's got their own way to throw their score in. And then we just see how the numbers shake out. And that's why it's called forced consensus. You're forced to put in your number. And then if the numbers turn out that we have a clear leader, then that's who we bring forward to vote. If not, then we have to try to resolve, and we problem solve at that point to say, okay, Katie and I would probably say, okay, here's what the numbers look like. And does this mean the board comes back together and has presentations? Does it mean, what might that look like? And it usually depends on what the numbers look like. So I've seen this go a lot of different ways. And really at this point, you just trust the process and what the numbers look like. And if there's a roadblock, then you and I are going to have to talk about how we might bring that. But again, it's the way the weighted averages work, you end up with these really big numbers. And so if you can envision a number like 759 versus 757, that's tied. I mean, that's when they're that big. It's really when if the winner was 759 and then the next number was like 503, then we clearly have a. So we would then take that number to the board. So we're hoping to resolve this, and if we can't and we have to delay it, then that just must be the universe karma way of saying we need a little bit more time until. Any questions about the process? So you have a link to do the scoring. You have the proposals. I will cue everyone up to let them know when the references are on. So at this point, you can just read and relax and kind of go through things, no rush. And then I will start informing people that time to.
Is a timeline, correct me if you said this already, is the timeline that we would approve one of these in the July meeting or the August meeting,
I'd
or
be
it just
hopeful.
depends?
Yeah, be hopeful July. if we
Shooting for
could.
July. Okay.
And again, if the numbers are so tight, it's going to be, I think, too hard to probably fit everyone's vacation schedule. And we just have to just retool and
Okay.
look to a later date and how we want to do that. But Katie and I can get that out of it.
But otherwise plan for July.
Yeah. And everyone's scores should be in before that. And once I get those references in, we'll give everyone maybe like a week or two to score before. You're all smiling because you know you're going to get a note from me. Just a friendly reminder. Don't forget.
A little late reading.
You got it in, don't worry. I don't. Last minute if I show up at your door. Everyone's good. You've all got your stuff in on time, so you're doing well. We all have the data we need to move forward. So thank you very much for that. I know it's kind of hard to pull this stuff up in isolation and get your head around it. So my encouragement is to read through the proposals now. And then you can dig into the references as they come in, or wait till you get the all call on it. Depends on how you like to be.
Thank you for that little bit of light reading that you've assigned all of us as homework. Any other questions or comments from the board?
The one thing I would like to add while you're thinking of any questions is everyone I talked to has been very excited about how that community coming together to give direction where they want their districts to go. So I think all three, I think regardless, I feel very excited.
All right. Next item on our agenda is boardsmanship, the board and district administrator responsibilities and annual board development tool related to planning.
Yeah, so the first one, and I let everyone know that we would be just that first document in there, the clarifying responsibilities, inspired a little bit by Kelsey the last meeting. We were talking about the safety committee, and it reminded me that this document does exist. It does talk about the different issues and then what the board does, what the district administrator does, and by district administrator meaning that and staff, and then what we would do together. So this was just an opportunity for people to look through this. And if anyone had any thoughts on, boy, I feel like that X should be in the first, second, or third column and not in the column. And we can always come back to look at this any other month. Wasn't any specific deadline, but just was inspired by that conversation just to say, hey, we had done this before and just a chance just to take a peek at it. And if no one had any thoughts on it, that's quite all right. We can revisit it again next fiscal year.
If I recall in the past, when we've maybe talked about this at board meetings, it was, or at, like as a group, a lot of this a lot of the things that fall under like the district administrator thing, or under the district administrator column, it is almost together because like the district administrator would be informing the board of all these things that are happening and potentially consult with the board if he felt like that was necessary and things like that. So there's still transparency. It's not necessarily that this is happening in a vacuum, just for folks to be aware. There is certainly information still being shared, even if the ultimate responsibility lies with Jim, for example. We could still expect to hear about these things.
Yeah, I think a good example I see in here, Katie, as you're saying that, is responding to complaints about taxes, which is aligned with under district administrator, but I think we get as well. I'm assuming here, Jim, some of the things under district administrator, let me find an example here. Like developing a corrective performance plan for a staff member could either be done by you or delegated to
Correct.
Another staff member, like a principal.
And that's really when I mentioned that last column is really me and our staff.
Yeah.
Some things do fall to me, but I have very skilled people that know those people really well, and they're able to make that determination.
Okay.
And they're very good at updating me when they're.
Anything else regarding the responsibilities worksheet? Okay, we'll move on to our board development tool.
Ooh, I actually have one more. Is this available to the community?
Could be.
I don't see why it wouldn't be.
No.
It could be helpful of like, I have a question about this. Where would this go? Whether it comes to us, you or everybody.
Yeah.
Maybe it's part of the handbook.
Yeah, some of these things I wouldn't know, without background, I wouldn't know who to go to.
Yeah.
All right. How about the board development tool? Did you have anything you want to talk about? Why are you laughing and looking at
I'm looking at
Alan?
Alan. I know that we've done like an alternating month piece, but I don't, if the board is, I put the data in for planning. And then the 4 questions, I rewrote the questions down below the graph just so that the board members could see because the way it cuts it off, right? And if the board was prepared to discuss about plan, I know this one came up because of both, I think, the task force conversation and also the conversations we're having with the village as well. So board feels prepared to that.
Yeah, let's take a look at it. It's only 4 questions long. I think we can tackle this tonight.
It's not even 8:30.
Famous last words.
I know.
I'll start off. One of the things that, as I was filling it out, and I talked to Jim about this a little bit already, is that kind of related to question one, like, do we share our services and stuff with other districts and entities? And obviously we co-op with several other districts and things, and I think that's wonderful that we can share resources as much as possible to give our students the most opportunity that's available. One of the things that we are actively working on will be to coordinate better with the village to see what kind of facilities we could be sharing and to sort of grow and plan the future of the community in a more cohesive way to make sure that we're kind of all moving towards the same target and not like duplicating each other's stuff. So, Jim and Gabe are meeting on a regular basis, and then Mike and myself will join in, I think, quarterly to just sort of see what we're talking about and what that looks like. So I appreciate that. I don't know that that's been done in the past, but I appreciate that outreach.
I think one example, the village is looking potentially at a new hall, and if they do, potentially at their own pumps. And so we're trying to determine how much fuel do we use in a year, and if that could be a possibility. It's no guarantee, but it's something to explore. One of the examples of the type of thing. But Katie also did a nice job in that conversation of, just asking where their priorities and vision for their work. You can see how much that Some of it's nitty gritty stuff and some. Yeah.
I'm always big picture.
I think the last question, the process to annually review the district's non-instructional support services and operation, the thing that came to mind for me was the community ed fees that we did. I don't know if that was last month or a couple of months ago now, would be a great example of that. I don't think we had done in some time. One question I have, and I think he's left again. Zach should have stayed. Was the third one. We have a process to annually review the district's facility and maintenance needs. I'm assuming that we check with not only Kelsey and Kyle on classroom space and needs, but also athletic and club facility needs as well.
Yeah, one of the things that we are so we looked at our whole meeting structure as a leadership team. Some meetings seemed like we didn't need to meet as often, and there were just some gaps, and one of them was facility. So one of the things we actually are starting this month, we did we were supposed to have done secondary school today, but we had to push it back a day because of a conflict. But we met last week with Kelsey and Alan, who's the lead custodian there, and Steve and myself, just to look at that elementary facility needs, and then we're going to do the same thing with secondary. And it'll be interesting. We haven't done the secondary one yet, but the secondary is a little bit bigger of a beast, right? Because it's not just this; it's got all those other deals and things like that that you're referencing as well.
Mm-hmm.
But we recognized internally that we just need a little bit more time and attention. Sometimes we seem like we were just happy.
Mm-hmm.
I just need a deliberate opportunity to be able to do that on a regular basis, so that when we come to the facility planning meetings, right, that we do every quarter, that this thing says annually, but we were kind of missing some steps, we think.
Mm-hmm.
And so we get to that quarterly meeting, and we're trying to do a lot in a short amount of time that we probably could do. We try to put that in place. We're just starting it out. I know the first one, I turned to Steve even this morning. I said, "How do you think that went?" I thought it went well. Just to be able to get our handle on being more systemic, and also some of this stemmed from that program that Steve and Eric are going through.
Mm-hmm.
And really trying to be much more systemic about how we're evaluating.
Is one of the things you're doing in those meetings, I must see it like a breakdown of like what we currently, in terms of needs, what we currently use, what we have to have, and what's nice to have. I think about most recently, like the baseball and softball fields are getting a lot of use, not only from our athletic teams, but also community teams who are playing on those too. Are we maximizing our potential? Are we having the 7th graders? I don't think this is happening, but are we having the 7th grade or middle school team practicing at 8:00 at night because they just don't get field time? I think the same thing happens in the winter in the gym with the amount of sports and athletic and clubs that we have. So be nice to break down like have to have, nice to have, especially if we potentially go down the route of facilities planning in the future. That information would be critical to have.
I can't tell you yet because we haven't done the secondary one. The elementary was interesting. That one, some of our focus actually was just on commodity flow, supplies, things like that, pallets versus smaller orders, and the contracts that we have. So in that part, we were looking at just sustaining. That's really that focus. I'll let you know how.
The other thing I just noticed in the results, and I don't really have a lot of discussing to do on it, is the second question about like the sound risk management practices in place that include a regular review of insurance options. We had a couple folks, and probably myself included, that mentioned that responded not sure to that one. So it might be good to either include those in updates or like kind of check in with that content a little bit more frequently. Obviously, we just did some insurance review, but maybe the risk management practices around those could use a little more transparency.
Yeah, I think we could do a better. I mean, I know we talked one other time, but that doesn't. I think what you're saying is maybe just a little bit more And it was inspired a little bit by your question. You were reading, Meg was reading the WASB bulletin, right? We did a little brief note about that research, but and I think that was on cyber as well, wasn't it? I think you would have. But I mean, there's in terms of risk management, it's bigger than that, right? It could definitely help inform the board, and I can work with Eric on what that might.
Any other strategic planning questions or discussion from folks? All right.
Well, it's
Go ahead.
sorry.
Yep.
It's not a question on here, but I do think it's worth noting that we are trying really hard to do strategic planning with not just the village and staff, but the community at large. I wish that was a question on here. I think that would be a good one to measure. The school is a part of a larger community, but I think I've seen more of that in the last 18 months that I've seen in the last decade or so of living here.
We could, again, this is, I take their survey. When we do this on the second time around this time, I could add that question.
I guess I'll just throw one thing in there with the first question around shared services. And I don't know where this is at, but Greene County still has a regular superintendent's meeting that you're able to participate in?
Yes, I do.
Okay. I know that they used to have joint meetings with their boards at times too to talk through shared service issues because there were a number of districts that were actually sharing instructional services. So a teacher in Monticello would be teaching physics, which, is a benefit to districts that aren't currently offering it. And then other schools could essentially have that telepresence classroom be supported in their school. So that was across at least 3 districts at that time and pretty regular. I don't know, a lot of that fell apart in the last few years because I think it is the challenge with any of those types of things is the willpower to sustain it as opposed to just the fact that it works for a little bit. And it might be worth exploring whether that's a way to provide benefit in this district too.
I can ask that group when we meet next.
I don't know where
Yeah.
the status of that is. So.
Yeah, that's good. We meet monthly still, so.
Anything else?
I just thought of this. It might be beneficial to understand what you are all involved in that aspect. So if you do have input or questions from the different entities that you are involved in, I think it'd be good just to have sort of a breakdown of.
I mean, the different, like the groups that I said, like Kiwanis and the chamber and all those. Okay.
You want to see Jim's calendar? You sure?
I can get that list for you. I'll add that to the letter this week.
Anything else from folks? All right.
The only thing on that would be, what's next?
Future agenda items.
That?
Future.
Oh, no, I meant, the next
Oh,
item
gotcha.
to
Yeah. What are we talking about next? I was
vision. I thought you said that.
Nice. Perfect.
Any opposition to vision? Now I know you're not here at the next meeting
Mhm.
in July. Is this something you maybe want to target?
We can do it in July. That's fine. I can't be here for all of it. I mean, you're probably not going to talk about it. You're just going to see the results and say, give me another month to think about it.
Hey, this time you broke that trend. So we'll try to, so is the goal to score by July and talk in August? Is that what you're?
Sure.
I think, well, in part, you're going to be running this remotely, so we'll score by July. And so, Ryan, that means July 14th at 8 a.m. And then we'll review in August.
Yeah, this was a short one. There were only like 4 questions. Good job. All right, now we can move along to future agenda items.
Yeah, so in July, we're going to be looking at science curriculum. Becca's going to be bringing a proposal together. We're also going to possibly approve that strategic plan facilitator. Kyle the high school team did some data collection surveying with all grade levels. They did a different approach this year, but he'd like to bring the senior data in July. I think last year we did that in August, but he requested that to be earlier. We're looking at student handbooks and employee handbooks as well. The fall coaching approvals, academic standards approval, WI membership, the second reading on the policies from today, the human growth and development. So they're actually meeting on Wednesday. I didn't have that on the list. I apologize for that. I wasn't on there. So human growth and development is meeting. They kept having to decide the date, and they just recently decided to be 5:30 this Wednesday. And then, oh yeah, I have the same thing down twice. So that looks like about it.
All right. Sounds good. How about future board meeting?
Right now, the only thing we have scheduled then is July 14th regular. I think it's been, you're gone, Beth's running it. She's going to be doing it remotely. So
I'll send you notes. All right. Any questions about future agenda items or board meetings? All right. Next up is a potential closed session. So I'll just go ahead and I'll make a motion to enter closed session under Wisconsin Statute 19.85 subsection 1 C, D, E, and F. Motion and roll call vote. This is going to be a long one, guys. Motion and roll call vote to go into closed session to discuss and potentially take action regarding C for consideration, including action if appropriate regarding employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of potential employees, non-union wages, discussion and potential action regarding employee disciplinary issues, letters of assurance, and employment summary offers. Sections D and F, school safety protocols that may involve a discussion of individual pupils and or strategies for crime detection or prevention pursuant to Wisconsin Statutes 19.85 subsection 1D, except as provided in 304.06 subsection 1 and by rule promulgated order under section 304.061 EM, considering specific applications of probation, extended supervision, or parole, of considering strategy for crime detection or prevention. Wisconsin Statutes 19.85 subsection 1F, considering financial, medical, social, or personal histories or disciplinary data of specific persons, preliminary consideration of specific personnel problems, or the investigation of charges against specific persons, except where paragraph B applies, which, if discussed in public, would be likely to have a substantial adverse effect upon the reputation of any person referred to in such histories or data, or involved in such problems or investigations. Discussion of safety presentations and incidents, and potential decisions for district safety and security. I make that motion. Anyone want to second that? Motion made by me, seconded by Ryan. Any questions, comments, or discussion? Hearing none, we'll take that up for a vote. Motion is, as I just read it. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Oh, wait, no, we got to do a
this
roll
is a roll
call.
call.
Sorry. Can you take a roll call vote for me, please, Marion?
Meg Anthony,
Yes.
Alan Charles,
Yes.
Steve Elliott,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Aaron Finney, yes, Katie Worley,
Yes.
Beth Stewart,
Yes.
Kevin and Kate.
All right. Thank you. We are entering closed session at 8:40 p.m.